Hey guys, it's your host, Bailey Carter. Welcome to the Stronger Scars podcast, where I invite others to dive deep into the ups and downs of physical and mental sports. All right, so I am joined today with Kelly Moss. I'm really excited to have you on here. We played soccer at Notre Dame together. And then last year, Kelly ended up transferring to the University of Pittsburgh, which is near and dear to my heart because I love Pittsburgh. But I'm excited to have her on here today because we never really talked about transferring. I think the logistical piece of it, one, and two, like a lot of mental things go into transferring. It's not an easy process, as I think you'll be able to speak on. But before that, kind of just introduce yourself to everyone.
All right. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored. Bailey is the best. She got me through so many fun times at Notre Dame, and she was always there for me. But I'm Kelly Moss. So I'm a fourth year student now at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm originally from South Jersey. I went to Notre Dame for 3 years, where I played with Bailey for those 3 years. And then now I've transferred to the University of Pittsburgh. So that's all you really need to know about me, but I'm a chemical engineering student and I'm a fourth year. So, yeah.
So my first question right off the bat, I think someone listening to this who doesn't know you, doesn't know your story, they're going to say, who the heck transfers out of Notre Dame? I'm sure you got asked that a lot.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that person?
I'd say, yeah. If you had said that to me 2 years ago, I would have been in complete agreement with you. But it takes a lot of courage and bravery to do that. I loved Notre Dame. I loved where I was. The people there are great. The education is unbeatable. But yet I wasn't happy. And that it goes without being said that if you're not happy, there is change that needs to happen. And I am so much happier now, and I'm in a really good place. So it may be hard to believe, but yeah, I'm one of those people who's crazy enough to leave Notre Dame to go find happiness and to go be the person that I know I can be. So yeah.
I mean, it's not like Pitt is a bad school. Let's be real. It's a good school, but it's just, when you hear Notre Dame, people are probably like, oh my goodness. But I remember when you first told me that you were transferring, like I was excited for you because I don't think a lot of people have the courage to do that. And you said that, like, it's a courageous move. Like, I had to build up courage to take this move. And like, I watched you visibly not be happy. And, you had a lot of like little injury issues and you weren't getting the playing time you deserved. And all those things accumulating to a really hard decision that not a lot of people make. A lot of people just suck it up and go through it. And Nick and I were actually talking about this. He was like, sometimes on your podcast, you say, like, do whatever makes you happy. And he was like, I think sometimes you have to be real and sometimes get through things. And I was like, I totally agree. But when it comes to a point where your everyday life is affected, you have to make a change.
Yeah. I mean, you were there, so you saw it, but it wasn't an eady decision to make. I spent a lot of time deliberating over that decision.
Yeah, you sat on the decision for a long time.
I did. There were moments and nights where I didn't sleep and moments where I was unsure of what to do, and I really honestly had no idea what my life would look like in the next month, honestly. And that was really hard. That was really tough. But, leaning on the teammates and my family and my friends made it easier. But yeah, finding happiness is like, it's tough because you really, really want to be happy where you are. You really just want to be like, how do I put this? You want to be, what's the word? Content. Like you just want to be content with where you're at all the time. Like it's not easy to be in a place where you had all this anticipation building up to go to this place and to live out your dream in life, and then to be unhappy. Like you just really want to be satisfied with the life that you're living. And finally realizing that you're not happy, that you're not satisfied, that you're not content with where you're at is one step in itself. And that is a huge thing. And then getting to the decision of whether you want to transfer or not.
Right.
Because if you're just like, one day you're like, wow, I'm not happy, it's kind of like a punch in the gut, you know. It's not what you want to be saying to yourself. But yeah, it's easy to just lean on the people around you, and be like, there's got to be something out there that's better. There's got to be something that will make me happy, something that when change ensues will change my happiness, my perspective on life. And that's just the way it was.
So what were some of those cues or those things that happened that made you realize, like, I can't suck it up anymore, I'm not happy? What were some of those things that you look back and are now like, yeah, like that was a sign for me to go?
There was this one day in practice, actually one day where I wasn't at practice, and usually the protocol for missing a practice is beforehand or afterhand of missing one, you would text the group chat, text your teammates and say, hey, I'm really sorry, I'm sick, I'm not going to be at practice. And just, you know, the accountability that you have to hold to the team is that you let them know what's going on, and we hold each other accountable, right? So I had missed one practice last fall and no one noticed. I didn't text until like the end of practice and no one noticed. And even the next day I came back, and the person that I warm up with every day, Bailey and I warm up together every day, and there's another person who would warm up with us, and she goes, I feel like I haven't seen you in a really long time. And I was like, oh really? Why do you think that is? She was like, I don't know, that's so weird. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of a punch in the gut.
That was one of the moments.
Yeah, it's realizing, to me, that moment was like, I know that's like such an external factor to what, you know, was going on internally to myself, but it really opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, I wasn't important enough in my position in life to be important in other people's lives. So I was in this space where I was so unhappy and I was not making change and I was not being a positive influence on other people to the point where they didn't even notice when I was gone. So, and then that was one big moment for me, where I was like, wow, I really need to go somewhere. I really need to be some type of person who is a positive influence, who has an impact on the people around them every day, regardless of if they're there or not.
That's interesting. I have a few comments. One, I just like, I feel like it's important to disclaim, like, Kelly didn't transfer because she hated the teammates at Notre Dame and she hated everything that came with it. We're not bashing on it. We both loved our experience in Notre Dame. Like, I met my husband, I met my friends for life. I loved playing on the team there. I love the coaches, like, not bashing on that. Just saying, like, the fit wasn't right for her. So I just want to disclaim that because I think it's important. But also, like, one of the biggest things with playing a team sport is feeling like you belong. Like, at the end of the day, no matter if you play a lot or don't play a lot, we all just want to feel like we belong. And I got that feeling a lot of times. Like, I would just sit at practice when I was hurt and be like, I literally feel invisible. And if it wasn't for like Rachel or trainer or the other hurt girls, I just felt like literally people were staring and just like looking right through me.
Yeah, and that's really common, and that happens everywhere. And sometimes it has nothing to do with belonging or everything to do with belonging, but you know, that's just part of it's part of your identity, honestly, is feeling invisible. It's undermining, and it kind of sucks, and no one ever wants to feel like they're invisible. I mean, no, I don't go to practice and think, let me be invisible today. But being injured and, you know, transferring into a new school, and being injured again. There are days when I feel invisible, even when I'm in my happiest moments and improving. But yeah, it's just the fit is really important. And it was clear to me that not only did I not really suit my environment at the time, but I also didn't really suit myself anymore. I wasn't in a place where I was improving and loving myself and really going out of my way to improve all aspects of my life, you know? And that had a lot to do with my environment. So just happens sometimes. It's very common, actually.
It is very common. We actually had a bunch of girls transfer, and I've had multiple friends who've transferred, but I think like one of the things, and I think this happens a lot in women's soccer, we get recruited so young. So we
Yeah.
have all these years we're building up to going to actually play at that school. We visualize all these amazing things happening. We visualize all the goals we're going to score, all the celebrations, and this life that isn't always a reality, because I mean, like, we get recruited like 9th, 10th grade. It's hard to
Yeah.
not envision this perfect life at school.
Yeah, it is. There's all this anticipation and buildup, and
Yes.
you see it on social media, you see it in the movies, whatever. And then you get to college and it's completely the opposite of what you really expected in terms of social life and other things. The hard work is always there. The soccer, it's almost everything you expect for the soccer, but it's not at all what you expect socially. Um, and you have to learn to build into yourself and really develop who you are into the environment that you're in. That's really hard, especially when you have all these expectations.
Yeah. Well, let's back it up a little bit and let's talk about the logistics that go into transferring. I'm kind of curious if you can walk us through, from the day you decided to transfer, what steps did you have to take to actually end up at a new school?
Okay, yeah, I can do that. All right, it's the very beginning. So the day I decided to transfer was much earlier than the day that I decided to talk to the coaches, just in terms of timing for the team and being respectful of, being in season. And because it was also a COVID year, so it was also in the middle of COVID. At the time, we had our fall season split and then we had our spring season split. But I knew that I couldn't make it any longer on the team in the spring semester. So I made the decision to transfer in the middle of the fall somewhere, probably late October, right around this time actually last year. And then I just decided to wait until the season was over to tell the coaches. So following our end of the fall season of 2020-2021, I texted the coaches and I asked to meet with them individually. So I asked for all the coaches to be there, and then I went in and met with them, and I expressed my desire to enter into the transfer portal and told them that it had nothing to do, with Notre Dame, and had everything to do with me, and that I wanted to improve outside of what I was in my situation. And I felt that I needed to be in a new place with a new team. So I expressed that interest, and I don't know if people are aware, but the coaches can't legally stop you from transferring and entering the transfer portal. It's just respectful that you tell the coaches before you go to the compliance team at your university or college. So they then directed me to reach out to our compliance coordinator. So I texted her and I asked to talk to her over the phone and when she was free. And I called her eventually and asked to be entered into the transfer portal. And then from there, there's different options as to what you have to do for your profile on the transfer portal. So I had the option of either only reaching out to coaches or the ability for coaches to see my profile and reach out to me as well. The compliance officer did recommend that you allow coaches to see your profile and reach out to you, as well as the ability for you to reach out to them. So I clicked that box, and then All they had to do was send that confirmation to the NCAA, and then I got an email confirmation back saying that I was officially in the transfer portal. And then from there, you are legally allowed to reach out to universities and coaches, asking if they need your position, asking if they are interested in possibly seeing you as a transfer into their university or college. So I immediately started calling coaches because I had already had that plan for a couple of weeks leading up to my decision and my official enter into the transfer portal. And I called many coaches that I had already been recruited by in high school. And basically the recruitment process is exactly the same as the recruitment process in high school. So I don't know if people are really aware of what that looks like. But in high school, people will email the coaches and ask them to come to their camps or come to their games, their tournaments to see them play. In this case, I had to, because I can't, play in tournaments, I had to get film done. So film on the games that I had played at Notre Dame, and just basically a highlight reel of my better plays in college. And so then I would call them, follow up with an email with my highlight reel, and wait for them to respond. And then basically the whole recruitment process starts over again. So that's basically what I did. And I ended up deciding to stay at Notre Dame for a semester without being on the soccer team, just so I would have an easier transition with COVID being a huge issue, and as well as I wanted to stay in the ACC. And at the time, if you transfer into the ACC, you have to wait a year before you were eligible to play. So I was waiting for that ACC immediate eligibility rule to be overruled. So then finally in February, while I was still looking at ACC schools as well as Ivy League schools and other schools that don't need to be mentioned, the ACC immediate eligibility rule finally got overruled, and I was able to talk to the coaches here at Pitt, and we came to an agreement that it would be very suitable for my situation to come to Pitt and play in the fall. So that was my whole process. And it's basically the same thing as high school recruitment, just with highlight reels and film of college play.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are probably because I feel like it's unheard of to transfer in the same division. So you definitely got lucky with that.
Well, very lucky.
But I think it's definitely probably a unique process because, obviously you're more mature than you were in high school, and you can have a different relationship with that coach that you're talking to. So I think it's a really cool, unique experience that you probably had when you got to go through all that. I'm curious. So obviously you said that you waited until the end of the season to talk to the coaches, initiate your transfer, but you knew in your heart what you were going to do. Was that feeling really scary? Did that weigh really heavy on you going to practice every day, knowing there's no end here for me?
Yeah, it did. It was hard. It was confusing mostly. It was when I finally came to that decision that I wanted to transfer, and that I knew I was going to be talking with coaches at the end of the semester. It was a huge weight off my shoulders. And it was a huge relief because I was distraught. I'm a very emotional person, and I love my family at Notre Dame. I still do to this day love my family at Notre Dame. And I loved where I was. I just didn't love my life, and I didn't love myself and the fact that I couldn't grow there. So it was very confusing to be in a place that I love so dearly and have so much respect for. But as well, I was also sad that I would be leaving my teammates that I had, become so close to, and almost felt guilty in a way, that I was kind of leaving these people that I thought might depend on me in a little bit, or, might see me as a person that would be a part of their life. You meet them, you meet some people in college and you're friends with them and then you never see them again. But it goes without saying that when you have a whole team of wonderful women, beautiful, strong, independent women, that you live with those people for the rest of your life. Like, they are people that you want to be by your side. And I felt really torn between being excited for the possibility of the future and of, finding a place where I could be my happiest and do my best and work at reaching my potential, versus leaving behind the friendships that I had made at Notre Dame through both my soccer team and, my friends in classes, and even my twin sister that I ended up leaving behind at Notre Dame. So, yeah, it was really confusing. And walking into practice every day, I felt kind of like a fraud in a way, because I had to lie. I had to lie to everyone for the benefit of the team, and out of respect for everyone. I have so much respect for everyone at Notre Dame, and especially the coaches there, and I didn't want to mess anything up.
Mm-hmm.
But living that half lie, it was hard. Especially, you, Bailey, like, you're my best friend on the team. And some of the other girls, they'd be like, oh, like, can't wait for the spring, or like they say, those weird comments like, oh, I can't wait for that lift, or things like that. And I'd be like thinking in my head, I'm not going to be there. Like, and I couldn't say anything.
Right.
So like, I wanted to be a part of this team, but deep down in my heart,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. And I knew that I was moving on long before anyone else knew. So it was difficult. It was really difficult and very confusing.
I love that you use the word guilt, and you said I felt guilty, and I think that's so important to highlight, because 15 minutes, 10 minutes ago, you just told me that you felt invisible. So someone who's some, you know what I mean though, like, honestly, like, someone who's saying, like, I didn't feel like I was really someone on the team that people remembered or realized was missing at practice, but I feel guilty for leaving them. And it's just kind of like, there's only so much you can do to feel welcomed and feel as a true part of a team. Like, I felt that a lot. Like, I didn't truly feel like I belonged. And then you say you're guilty because you're leaving them. I'm serious. Like, you have to just, like, life is so much about just taking a step back and looking at what's in front of you. And like, I just think when it comes to that, like, you did what was best for you in the situation. That's nothing that you should feel guilty about. And I think, the people who truly love you and truly do not think you are invisible would never look at that as a guilty situation, and would never want you to feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so funny you say that, because we have this loyalty as humans, like this inherent loyalty, and it's so hard to get past those ties that you have to people, regardless of how strong they are, going both ways. And I have extremely, extremely high loyalty value in my life, and no matter how people treat me, or have treated me in the past, it's really hard for me to be like not loyal and still hold value to the things that have happened in the past. And I literally it was confusing. It was so confusing. And I would see, like, you go through this, and like all of our hurt girls go through feeling invisible, and then weeks later we would feel guilty for not maybe not being there for other teammates, or not doing certain things that the team was disappointed in.
Right.
And it was weird to be in that position. But
yeah, I get that. And I also think in your situation, I know you had some really whack injuries with your back and like the nerve thing. So you just had a lot of different pieces just kind of building up to this. And I don't know, I feel like, like back to Nick's point, like sometimes you have to suck it up and get something done. Like you had so many things weighing against you. I don't want you to ever think like maybe I should have sucked it up. But I am curious, were there points in that time where you knew you were leaving, but you didn't tell anyone? Were there points there that you had little snippets of like, maybe I should stay? Like, were there moments of something that happened that kind of almost changed your mind?
Never, never.
Really?
Not
That's so
once.
interesting.
No, not once. I don't think I'm that type of person, honestly, that I'm the kind of person who deliberates for a long time over hard decisions, and isn't really sure where it's going to end up for a long time. But once I make that decision, it's hard and fast. And I don't really go back on it. But I think what was really important there was that I was really excited. I
Mm-hmm.
was so excited for the possibility, the potential of being happier, the potential of, you know, reaching a place where I was happy with myself and reaching a place where I knew I could follow my dreams and continue to be a better person. And it was weird. It was a weird time where I knew that I would really dearly miss the people that I was leaving behind. Um, and I really miss Notre Dame and leaving my twin sister. Um, but I never doubted it after I knew that I was going to transfer, because I was so excited to be going to for even just the possibility of not feeling the way I felt every day.
Yeah, I think too, like that's definitely a pocket of advice to someone who's thinking about transferring. Like, be sure you don't want to go back on your decision. You don't want to, start telling people and be like, crap, I screwed up. Like, really think about it. Talk to your close friends, your family, like the people you really trust, and just be sure and comfortable and happy with that decision. Cause it's one of those you can't really take back once it's in the process.
It is, yes. Once you enter the transfer portal, it has to be a really good situation for you to get out of it. You have to be in, you have to be held in the highest regard by your coaches, to be accepted back onto the team, once you've decided to go back on your decision. Um, yeah, it's deciding whether to transfer is a huge decision,
Mm.
um, and a lot of factors go into it. But in my opinion, it really goes down to the daily things in your life that are matter the most to you. Um, for me, it was just not being satisfied with who I was every single day. Every single day, I would go to practice, I would go to class, and I would go home, living my life through the motions. Maybe I'd sleep, maybe I'd eat. It was hard, and it was living through the motions and not being happy with yourself. If that's how you live every day, and it has to do with your environment and doesn't have to do with external factors, that you know it's it's determining whether you could see a better place where you have the potential to not feel like you're living life through the motions, like you're not living life to the fullest potential, um, and really reaching your own potential. And I felt completely the opposite of that. I knew every day that I was wasting my life and that there was nothing I could do about it except transfer. So it was
I
a sure decision.
I think you're like the prime case of, from the outside, someone looking in, it looks like you have everything. It looks like you're at one of the best schools, you're on the soccer team, like you're an engineer. It looks like you have everything. But
Yeah,
just like I'm internally so happy right now talking to you because you just seem so much better. Like I saw you at some pretty low points and you just
yeah.
seem so happy and you're smiling and like you just you're like glowing, and I don't remember you feeling like that at Notre Dame. But I have 2 points that I just want to question before we talk about like where you are now, because I think that's an important piece of transferring, is like
Yeah,
when you
sure.
actually get there, what's it like? But what if you wouldn't have gotten picked up by a team that you were happy with? What if you entered the portal and it didn't go well? And then with that, I know you didn't get as much playing time at Notre Dame as you would have liked. So what does someone do in that situation with like film or, you know, talking to a coach? Like, how do you kind of deal with those things?
All right. So number one, what happens if you transfer, take this huge step in your life, make a huge decision, decide to leave your home and make a new home, and it goes poorly? I'm so grateful.
Would it have been better if you just had to be done with soccer?
Yeah. For me, so I was lucky in the case that I started school at Pitt in May. So I started summer school straight out of Notre Dame spring semester. And I had the opportunity to come for summer ball leading up to preseason. And I knew in the back of my head, I knew that if it went poorly and I didn't like the team and I didn't like living in Pittsburgh, that I had the opportunity to still go back to Notre Dame, regardless of that summer school, and be a NARP, as the athletes call it.
What is a NARP?
A NARP is a non-athletic regular person, apparently. I don't usually use that phrase.
Come
But
on,
yeah.
Billy. The NARPs are going to be coming after you. I'm a NARP now, okay?
I apologize. Well, I was a NARP for a semester, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't exactly what I dreamed of, but
Yeah, you were a NARP. You weren't there for my last hurrah. Senior night, you know, all the things weren't there. It's fine.
yeah, I missed all the good stuff. I missed all the bad stuff. Missed both of it, but yeah, I think it would be really tragic if I had transferred here and I hated it. I don't know if I would have survived it. I probably would have dropped out, honestly. But yeah, I think if you really think that there's nowhere out there for you to be happier, and the place that you are at as a student athlete is the place that you want to stay, you just can't keep playing your sport, and you are firm in that belief that the place you're at is good, but the sport you are playing is not, then I say do what will make you happy, and quit your sport. There's nothing wrong with quitting the sport you are playing and quitting a Division I sport, Division II sport, Division III sport. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, I respect it.
I was gonna say, like, we had, you know, people in our friend group do that, and
yeah,
they'd be thriving. Like my best friend Chloe, she medically retired, but you know, no difference, and she was thriving. She was so happy, and she was living her life to the fullest. And like sometimes that just works for people.
Yeah, and some people I think are so quick to be judgmental about that type of situation, and you know, see shame in that, but I see no shame in that. And you're right, like the people that we know that have done that, especially at Notre Dame and other schools, are so happy. Honestly, the success rate I found from the people I know that have transferred, that have quit those situations, it's like 100% of being happy after they've made that huge decision. And it's honestly it's honestly a huge decision, but to me it's really simple. What is going to make you happy? What is going to make you satisfied with where you're at in trying to reach your potential in life? You know, and you know, Jade, Lou, Chloe, they're happy, they're living their best life, they're doing great. You know, they might take their 5th year somewhere else. Jade and Lou.
Let's see if they actually listen to this. So if you guys are listening, Jade, Chloe, or Lou, text us and say hi, because we'll see if you're actually listening, since we just gave you guys a plug.
Yeah, seriously. Oh man.
So what about the film? Like, I mean, because I think you'll honestly speak about this. You didn't play as much as you would have liked. You weren't. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So, how did you approach that with coaches? Like, I know you had a little bit of film here and there, but realistically, like, how did you say, I'm a good player, trust me, even though you didn't really have all the evidence to show that?
Are you talking about to the coaches at Notre Dame or to coaches outside of the university?
Outside the university.
Okay. Yeah, well, I actually did have a good bit of good film.
Did you?
I did. I had really good film. I'm not gonna lie.
I can cut that out, but I just think it's like a lot of times people who are transferring is one of the biggest reasons is they didn't play as much as they would have liked. So why should a different coach take you on knowing, you didn't play all that much at the other school?
Oh yeah. I guess there's got to be something out there. Coaches typically will play everyone in spring ball or out of season play. They'll play everyone, right? So there's got to be some film of you somewhere, whether it's from high school or from that non-existent college soccer game, exhibition games. You just really have to do your best to look into that and see if you can find any film. I also used film from our game against each other. We had that. Did they call it an exhibition game? I think they called it an intra-squad exhibition or something like that.
Who scored in that game? Who scored in that game?
Really scored in that game.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did.
Did you have an assist as well or something?
I did. I didn't want to bring that up, but I did.
She had 3 points on the game. 4 points.
It was a big day for Bailey. It was a big day.
Anyway, there's got to be some film out there of you where you're playing well or doing good things, and you can use that. You can honestly use film from practice. Coaches don't mind, as long as it's, you can put the little circle on you or the little arrow that points to you in the practice so that it's more clear who you are, and in that, then you're ready to go. Just have that set up with the media team at your university, and that will help you. But if you really don't have any film or any footage of you playing really well, then you really have to sell yourself. You really do. And honestly, I had to sell myself even with my film. And you'd really have to stand for what you believe is your best quality or are your best qualities. And come up with your strengths and your weaknesses and include all of those things. And so I would say to the coaches, these are my strengths. I'm a great passer. I have a left foot, so I can use both sides. I can play on both sides of the field. I'm a very versatile player, whatever your strengths. Tell the coaches that and say, I could add these things to your team's arsenal. But on the other end, these are the things that I want to work on. And I know that your team and your coaching, I would be honored to be part of a system that would help me improve those things and, give me the opportunity to improve in those arenas. And coaches really like to hear that you are so open to feedback and so open to improvement under them, and hearing that you're, honored, that you're excited, that you have all these qualities in you that make you a good person and make you someone that would be a part of the team, are really, respected by coaches. So that's how I would approach that.
I think it's cool too, for those of you who aren't that in touch with like college women's soccer world. The coach at Pitt is Randy Waldrum, who won 2 national championships at Notre Dame. So I think it's so cool that you still have like a kind of piece of home being there. Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, we still talk about it. Sometimes in practice, people are like, when I was at Notre Dame, and I'll be like, yeah, me too.
So what has the dynamic been like coming into a team who's been together for a few years and you're the new girl?
The dynamic, it's interesting because most of the transfers here are very young. So being the new girl and also being at least almost 5 years older than some of the youngest girls on the team is a very weird dynamic. Mm-hmm. But just being a new person on the team, you really have to learn how to memorize names and how to not mix people up. I'm really bad at that.
Well, don't you guys
Um,
have like so many people on the team though?
we do. We have 34. There's
Yeah,
34 of us.
that's big. Yeah.
Hard because all 34 of us came for summer ball. So at least I had the opportunity to learn their names outside of preseason, which was really nice. But being the new girl was, it's you have to be able to assert your personality outside of soccer, but also your soccer personality in practice. And you have to try to fit in with the team. And on top of that, in the beginning, I had zero chemistry with any of the people I was playing with. Um, which I was not used to. That was a very freshman aspect that I had gotten past long time ago. But over time, when you start to get to know your teammates and you really put effort into trying to memorize their names and not mix them up, you reach this point where you're playing with them in practice and you're learning from them and you're learning their tendencies as well as how you fit into those tendencies. And it takes time. It took me I arrived June 27th, and it wasn't until probably July, like second, third week of July, like July 17th, where I finally felt very comfortable with who I was with, and very comfortable on the field playing with them and knowing that I knew exactly where the next person would be or exactly what their run was going to look like. Um, so that was weird and very new again. But yeah, I found it a challenge and a very fun challenge of getting to know people, um, finding new best friends, finding new chemistry with players. It's fun, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, we can't have a Stronger Scarps podcast without bringing up injury. So when Kelly when Kelly got to Pitt, didn't go quite as planned, and she got hurt. So talk about that. And I'm sure that was gut wrenching. I know when you texted me and FaceTime me, you were heartbroken. You go through all this and you get hurt. So kind of just talk about that experience.
Ooh, okay. So I went all of summer ball doing fine. You know, a couple hyperextensions of my knee, and I thought that was nothing. I did whatever, went through the whole summer ball, went to Bailey's wedding, and then turned straight around and went into preseason and tore my meniscus in the first 45 minutes of our first practice of preseason. And people who know me know I don't really go down very easily, and kind of play through injuries for a long time before I finally face the fact that I'm hurt. But I remember this moment. I remember the moment I tore my meniscus very distinctly, because it was peculiar. I didn't have a injury on the ground. I was kicking the ball and one of my teammates ran through my leg and it hyperextended in the air, which is very unusual for any knee injury. But I played on, and then I played the rest of that practice and the following practice in the afternoon. And but then I couldn't sleep that night from the pain. And I knew something was up and I was heartbroken, but I was holding on, to the fact that I've had knee hyperextension and problems in the past. And that I was like, I'll be fine in a week and I'll be playing in the exhibition games fine, whatever, it'll be fine. So I get checked out, and all the physical therapists, my athletic trainer, the physical therapist that was there, and the student that is learning to be a physical therapist, they all checked me and they all said the same thing. You're fine, you'll be back in a week. Yeah, and it was very fine at the time. And then the doctor came to practice, and he checked me out and he said, let's get you an MRI just in case, just to make sure everything is going well down there, and check your ACL out as well too. So I stay out of practice for about 2 days, and I go to get my MRI done, fall asleep in my MRI. Things are great. I'm none to the wiser. And then my results come back in the morning, and I remember coming in and my trainer was like, get in the hot tub. And I was like, did the results come back? And she was like, yeah, the results came back, get in the hot tub. And I was like, that's weird, like what is going on? So then I'm like, why? I'm waiting to get my rehab done that I've been doing for the past 2 days. And everyone goes out into the field without